Miss Muskowski. I miss seeing all your beautiful faces every day. And I'm bored, so I thought that I would read to you every night before you tuck yourselves into bed. And so the book that I chose was this one called The Face on the Milk Carton. I actually took this book from my hairdresser because it looked really interesting. And so what it's about is this girl who's in high school, and she sees her face on the back of a milk carton with, "Have you seen this child?" And she's like, "Oh my God, that's me. Like, how did I get on the back of a milk carton? I love my parents. I know my parents." So that's what it's about, her like chasing down who she really is and if she was kidnapped or if she wasn't, and it's a great book. So I'm going to read a chapter to you tonight, and then you can tune back in tomorrow. So here we go, The Face on the Milk Carton. Chapter 1. Janny finished her essay. She never knew what grade she would get in Miss Browell's English class. Whenever she joked, he wanted the essay serious. Whenever she was serious, he had intended the essay to be lighthearted. It was October. Outdoors throbbed with autumn. She could feel the pulse of the deep blue skies. With every leaf wrenched off its twig and whirled by the wind, Janny felt a tug. She felt like driving for hours, taking any road at all, just going. Actually, Janny was only 15 and had barely started driving lessons. She was having driving fantasies because of dinner last night. Her parents, as always, had taken opposite sides. Setting themselves up like a debate team, her mother and father would argue until some invisible marital timer rang. Then they would come to terms, rushing to meet in the middle, until last. Page turner. Until last night, her mother had said Janny could begin driving while her father said she could not. "She's just a baby," said her father, in the infuriating, affectionate way of fathers. "She's old," said Janny's mother lightly, "practically a woman, a sophomore in high school." "I hate it when that happens," her father grumbled. "I like my little girl to stay little. I'm against all this growing up." He wound some of Janny's hair around her wrist. It's dark out here and I can't see that great. Janny had fabulous hair, a wild, chaotic mane of red curls, glinting gold. People always commented on it, and her best friend, Sarah Charlotte, said, "Janny, that is serious hair." "I guess you've grown up anyway, Janny," said her father reluctantly. Even with all the bricks I put on your head to keep you little. Okay, I give in. You can drive." In English, Janny smiled to herself. Her father was an accountant who in the fall had time to coach the middle school soccer teams. Today after school, he'd have a practice or a game, but when he came home, they'd go driving. She wrote her name on her essay. She had gradually changed her name. Jane was too dull. Last year, she added a Y and became Jane, with a Y, Jayne, which had more personality and was sexier. To her last name, Johnson, she added a T and later an E at the end, so now she was Jane Johnstone. Her best friends, Sarah Charlotte, Sherwood, and Adair Odell, had wonderful, tongue-twisting, memorable names. But with the last name Johnson, hardly a name at all, more like a page out of the phone book, had her parents chosen Jane. They could have named her Scarlett or Allegra, perhaps Roxanne. Now she took the H out of Johnston and added a second Y to Jane, Jayne, Johnstone. It looked like a name you would have if you designed sequin gowns for a living or pointed to prizes on television television quiz shows. "Earth to Janny," said Mr. Brow. She blushed, wondering how many times he had called her. Excuse me, Dunkin' break. Oh, thank you. "The rest of us are reading our essays aloud, Jane," said Mr. Brow. We'd like to issue an invitation to join us." And she blushed as hotly as she had put her hands over her cheeks. "Don't do that," said Pete. "You're cute when your face matches your hair." Immediately, the back row of boys went into barbershop singing, hands on their hearts, invisible hats flying into the air. "One in love with Jane," they sang. Janey had never had a boyfriend. She was always asked to dances, was always with the crowd, but no boy had actually said, "I want to be with you and you alone." Mr. Brow told Janny to read her essay aloud. The blush faded. She felt white and sick. She hated standing up in class, hated hearing her voice all alone in the quiet of the room. The bell rang. English was split period. They had lunch in page turner in the middle, like a block period, and came back for one more class. Never had lunch come at such an appropriate moment. Perhaps she would write a better essay during the 27 minutes at lunch. Certainly it wasn't going to take Janie long to eat. They had recently discovered she had a lactose intolerance. This was a splash way of saying she had stomach aches when she drank milk. No more ice cream, no more milk was the medical and parental decree. However, peanut butter sandwiches, which she had in her bag lunch, required milk. I am so sick of fruit juice, Janie thought. I want milk. She had been eating since the school year began with Pete, Adair, Sarah Charlotte, Jason, and Katrina, and she loved all their names. Her last year of Daydream, before a driver's license absorbed all Daydream time, had been about her own future family. She couldn't picture her husband-to-be, but she could see her children perfectly, 2 beautiful little girls, and she would name them Denim and Lace. She used to think about Denim and Lace all the time. Shopping at the mall with Sarah Charlotte, she'd go into all the shoe stores to play with the little teeny sneakers for newborns, and think of all the pretty clothes she'd buy one day for Denim and Lace. So cute. Now she knew those names were nauseating, and if she did name her daughters Denim and Lace, there'd probably be a divorce, and her husband would get custody on the grounds that anybody who chose those names was unfit. She'd have to name them something sensible like Emily and Margaret. Peter, Adair, Sarah Charlotte, Jason, Katrina, and Janie went to the mob down the stairs, through the wide halls and into the far too small cafeteria. The kids complained about the architecture of the school, all the space dedicated to passing periods and hardly any to lunch. But they loved being crammed in. I don't know that word. Oh, filching each other's potato chips, telling secrets they wanted everybody to overhear, passing notes to be snatched up by the boy you hoped would snatch it, and sending the people outside of the crush to get you a second milk. Everybody but Janie Johnson got milk. Cardboard cartons so small you needed at least 3, but the lunch ladies would never let you. Janie was envious. Those luckies had swigging down nice thick white milk, she thought, and I'm stuck with cranberry juice. Iced tea break, sorry. Okay, said Sarah Charlotte, and Sarah Charlotte would never bother you if you tried to abbreviate her name. Last year, she had reached a standoff with a teacher who insisted on calling her Sarah. Sarah Charlotte glared at him silently for months until he began calling her Miss Sherwood, which let them both win. Okay, who's been kidnapped this time? Said Sarah Charlotte warily, as if jaded with the vast number of kidnappings in the world. Sarah Charlotte patted her white blonde hair, which was as neat as if she had cut it out of a magazine, and pasted it onto her head. Janie, whose mass of hair was never the same, 10 minutes in a row, and whose face could be difficult to find beneath the red tangles, never figured out how Sarah Charlotte kept her hair so neat. I have approximately 500,000 fewer hairs than you, Sarah Charlotte explained once. Everybody turned the milk cartons over to see who'd been kidnapped. The local dairy pictures of stolen children on the back of the carton. Every few weeks, there was a new child. I don't know if you're supposed to recognize somebody who was 3 years old when they got taken from a shopping center in New Jersey, and that was nearly a dozen years ago, said Adair. It's ridiculous. Adair was as sleek and smooth as her name. Even her dark hair matched, unruffled and gleaming like a seal out of water. Janie sipped juice from the cardboard packet and pretended it was milk. Across the cafeteria, Reeve waved. Reeve lived next door. He was a senior. Reeve never did homework. It was his life ambition to get in the Guinness Book of World Records, and the only thing he had a stab at was never did his homework once, but still got the occasional B+. Reeve had gotten the occasional B+, but he had also gotten a lot of D's and F's. News came from the academic office that unless Reeve shaped up, he would not graduate with his class. His 2 older sisters and 1 older brother had gone to spectacular colleges, Cornell, Princeton, and Stanford. They were mortified by Reeve's failures and came home on weekends to tell him so. Reeve had ceased to speak to his entire family. In fact, he stomped away and had supper at Janny's so often that Janny's mother had said last night, "I'm thinking of charging your parents a meal fee, Reeve." Reeve did not laugh. In a strangled voice, he said, "I'm sorry. I won't come again." Janny's father punched him. The way, if it had been Janny, he would have hugged. Jabbed Reeve in the gut, his father said, "Meals here, bed there, Reeve. Someday we'll collect our debt." "Yeah, when I'm a plumber," said Reeve gloomily. "You'll let me clean your drains." "Now, Reeve, just start studying. Pull those grades up." And her father broke off. Hang on 1 second. Okay. "Now, Reeve, just start studying. Pull those grades up." And her father broke off. "Right," he said, punching Reeve again. "In this house, we won't discuss it. Here, have a brownie and some ice cream." What a guy. It was such a trespass on Reeve that everybody knew the details. Whatever Reeve kept a secret, his mother told Janny's mother anyway, and Reeve felt cramped by the intimacy of his life. He had always lived in this town, always gone to this school. "I want to live in a city," he said last night, "and be anonymous." Ruefully, Janny thought her name would give her a pretty good start if she wanted to go anonymous. Sarah Charlotte was hoping Reeve would ask Janny out. Sarah Charlotte was not interested in getting her driver's license. She was interested in having a steady boyfriend who had to be tall, handsome, muscular, smart, courteous, and rich. Reeve was all but one. And if Reeve doesn't ask you out, was Sarah Charlotte's theory, maybe his friends will. Janny did not think the boy next door ever came through in real life, nor would any of Reeve's friends ask her out. Last year's seniors had dated a lot of younger girls. This year's seniors seemed annoyed that they had to be in the same building. Janny felt younger than her age. She had grown later and grown less, and while Dare and Sarah Charlotte were busy becoming sophisticated and articulate, Janny remained small. Her mother said she was cute. Janny loathed that word. Cute was for toddlers and kittens, and boys didn't date cute little girls. They dated streamlined, impressive women like Sarah Charlotte and Adair. Besides, how would she date? Her parents didn't even let her go to the shopping mall alone. They'd never let her date. Alone with a boy? Ha! Not likely. Janny waved back at Reeve, and he turned to his friends. Duty done. If he knew I'm really Jane Johnstone, she thought, would he do more than wave? She felt curiously heavy, like the difference between a whole milk and skim. Through the cafeteria windows, the sun gleamed, filling the school with golden shafts in which the dust swirled. On her left, so close he was nearly in her lap, Pete drank his milk in one long swig and crushed the carton in his hand. The boys loved doing that. If they had a soda, they stamped the can under their feet and looked proudly at the flat aluminum. "My mother said none of them are really kidnapped anyhow," said Pete. "She said it's all hype." It took Janny several seconds to realize he was talking about the face on the milk carton. "What do you mean?" she said. She ate her peanut butter sandwich. Almost anything with peanut butter was excellent. Peanut butter and marshmallow fluff? Peanut butter and bananas? But a person needed milk to wash it all down. "All it is," said Pete firmly, "is divorce, where one parent gets mad and takes his own kid, but he doesn't tell the other parent where they're going. It's never actually a stranger stealing a kid, like they say on TV. Iced tea break. "You mean they weren't really stolen, said Sarah Charlotte, vastly disappointed. She made several dramatic gestures, probably like, oh no. There was no room for dramatic gestures in the cafeteria, and people grabbed to save the whipped cream towers on their Jell-O from getting splattered by Sarah Charlotte's hands. "Nobody wants a ransom," cried Sarah Charlotte. "Nobody is being tortured." If I drank one carton of milk, Janny thought, is my allergy so serious I'll die? How boring would the obituary be? "Here lies Jane Johnson." I would leave a note. Put Jane, Jayne, on my stone. Janny shook her head. Pete and Jason immediately complained that they had gotten red hair in their faces, and would Janny please get a grip on her hair? It's a long chapter. "What do you want me to do?" demanded Janny. "Wear a net around it?" "Either that or build an addition to the cafeteria to house it," said Peter. Everybody giggled. Janny shook her hair more vigorously, and the boys ducked and threw potato chips at her, while she reached for Sarah Charlotte's milk and drank it up. perfect meal, peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk. Janie set her carton down and sighed with pleasure. Here it comes, guys. Here it comes. The little girl in the back of the carton stared back at her. It wasn't much of a picture. After all, how good could a picture be when it was printed on a milk carton? You ready for that algebra test? Jason asked. I was ready to lay cafeteria food. Do you think he'll let me out of the test if I had food poisoning? The girl on the carton was an ordinary little girl, her hair in tight pigtails, one against the thin cheek, a dress with a narrow white collar. The dress was white with tiny dark polka dots. Something evil and thick settled on Janie, blocking her throat, dimming her eyes. Sarah Charlotte, she said. She could hear herself shouting Sarah Charlotte's name, yet her lips were not moving and she was making no sound at all. She reached toward Sarah Charlotte's sleeve, but her hand didn't obey. It lay motionless on top of her carton. She looked like somebody else's hand. She could not imagine herself wearing that shade of nail polish or that silly ring. You drank my milk, accused Sarah Charlotte. It's me on there, Janie whispered. Her head hurt. Was the milk allergy already settling in, or was she going insane? Could you go insane this fast? Surely it took years to lose your mind. She imagined people losing their minds in the way you might lose a penny or your car keys, accidentally dropping your mind in the cafeteria. On where? Said Peter. It got dark out here. Gotta get the lights on. It's better. On where? Said Peter. The girl in the back of the carton, whispered Janie. How flat her voice sounded if she had ironed it. It's me. She remembered that dress, how the collar itched, remembered the fabric. It was a summer fabric. The wind blew through it. Remembered how those braids swung like red silk against her cheeks. I know you're sick of school, said Sarah Charlotte, but claiming to be kidnapped is a little too far, Janie. Pete retrieved his flattened milk and tried to shape it back into the carton, and he read between the folds. You were stolen 10 years ago from a shopping center in New Jersey, Janie? What are you doing here? Yeah, said Adair, giggling. Why aren't you out yelling for the police? Oh, she's just trying to get out of her reading essay, said Jason. No, she's just trying to steal my milk, said Sarah Charlotte. The bell rang. The others hurled their garbage toward the huge plastic-lined trash cans by the door and missed. Ducking under the plump arms of the lunch ladies, they raced back to class instead of picking it up. Janie held Sarah Charlotte's empty milk carton and stared at the photograph of the little girl. I was kidnapped. And that's it for tonight. Tune in tomorrow night on Miss Moskowski's Read Alouds. I love you. I miss you. Stay in your house and stay safe. Good night.